We are finally ready to start coding. Now, before we start coding, your program should look like mine. There's one property I want to change before we get started. So if you click on your picture box, these are all of the properties we can change. And I want you to scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see a visible property. So this lets you determine if you can see this control or if you cannot. Now by default, visible is true, which means we can see it. I want you to set that to false. False means we cannot see that. The visible property is false. We cannot see this picture box. And while you're at it, why don't you change the second picture box? Same thing. Set that visible property to be false. So now I cannot see these picture boxes. Now I know what you're thinking. We still see them here. This is our design mode. Now, if you want to run your program and see how it functions, there is a green play button up here that says start. So if we give that a click, your program will compile and we will see how your program functions. Now, our program is pretty basic right now. We haven't written any code, but nevertheless, here is our program. So if someone was to run our program, this is what they would see. Now they can't see the picture boxes because the visible property has been set to false. This is perfect. Now our first program, our card flip assignment, is going to be very simple. When I click this button, I want to show the back of the card. When I click this button, I want to show the front of the card. So how do we go about that? Well, we're now going to talk about events. Events are things the user can do to your program to activate some code. Now, the main events, the most common event is the click event. When a user clicks on something, such as a button, we can write some code to happen when that happens. So how do I add a click event? Well, if you want to click on the show back button, just give it a double click and this will take you to your code. Now I don't need that, I'm just going to erase that. So you should see something similar to this. Now it's a good idea to show you guys, sometimes when you're working with code and you're deleting things like I just did, if you go back to your design view, it looks like your program has just crashed. This will happen all the time as you change and modify and delete stuff from your program. All you have to do is click that line and hit backslash twice, or I should say front slash, my bad. And then if you go back to your design, it's fine. So just a little warning, hopefully that doesn't happen to you, but when it does, you'll be ready. Okay, where were we? I want to click on this button. I want my user to click on this button. So it takes me to the click event. You should see a click right there. And what are we clicking? Well, we're clicking the back button. There's the name of my button. So now we're balancing between these two windows, how my form looks and the code that I want to happen when my user interacts with my program. So if I click the back button, I want to see the picture of the back of my card. Remember, we can't see it right now. It's invisible because the visible property was set to false. So what that means is this picture box, I can change all of these properties in my design mode right here, but I can also change all of them in code. I can change the visible property by writing code. I can write code to change the back color. I can write code to change the location of my image. I can write code to change all of these properties. So which property do I want to change? Well, I want to change the visible property. It starts as false, and I would like it to be true. And when do I want it to be true? When they click this button. So how do we do that? Well, let's double click this button and this is where we're going to put the code. So the picture box that I want to make visible is this one. It's called PCB back. So if I ever want to change a property of a control, I first need the name of the control. And as you can see, I start to type PCB, and the IntelliSense kicks in. It's trying to help me. It's trying to predict what I'm going to type so that I don't have to type a bunch of code all the time. So I believe I'm doing the front first. No, I'm doing the back. So I'm going to click PCB back or press tab on my keyboard. And I don't like the IntelliSense is kind of giving away the answer here. So let's just pretend we can't see that. So once I have the control I'm interested in changing, which property do I want to change? Well, I want to change the visible property. So I'm going to go PCB back dot visible dot whatever property I'm trying to change. So this will allow me to change the visible property. And what do I want to set the visible property to be equal to? Well, what are my choices? The visible property can either be true or false. False means I can't see it. True means I can see it. So when I click this button, I would like to be able to see that picture. So I'm going to set it to true. Now, every line of code ends with a semicolon, so make sure you include that. And if you forget your semicolon, your error list, it'll say, hey, I'm expecting a semicolon at this line. So you can just double click it, and it's telling you to put a semicolon there. I have no issues, so here we go. When I click that back button, it should show me the back of the card. There we go, just like that. So theoretically, you technically know how to change all of these properties through writing code now. Now, some of these properties are easier to change than others, so you might technically not know how to change all of them, but you do know the process. You do know that you use the name of whatever you're trying to change, dot the property you're trying to change, and whatever you want it to be equal to. So with that being said, I can let you figure out your first assignment on the next page of this course.